Hey, welcome this week with Chris and Bob. The it's going to be it's an interesting week. Chris, you saw the email I sent over about the class action suit for a data center that has been encrypted for almost 2 months, and figured we'd talk about that a little bit and the responsibilities of what people should be doing. Looks like there was a lot of mistakes made. People are trusting the data center to back up and protect them, and in this case, it looks like somebody really messed up in multiple places. That's
Where should we begin? All right. So 365 data centers, they they offer cloud services, they offer co-location services. It means you can actually put your equipment there. And the lawsuit, the lawsuit I think was filed on May 28th. I think it was filed on May 28th by one of their customers, BizBudding, who did hosting for other people in
right.
365 data centers. Like 40% of their business was in there, and thousands of websites are encrypted, like down. And through the emails that were leaked or part of the ongoing litigation, they basically admitted that it was a customer of theirs of 365 data centers that got ransomware or hit with a ransomware attack, and somehow it got into the systems for 365 and took down the data centers in the Northeast.
That's
So
really
there's
scary. If you think
yeah,
about it, because if 365 is a traditional data center where where people are self-managing or where they're self-managing and have access to these machines, that means that there's potentially hundreds of machines that this could have been the root machine getting in, and it was just a
yep,
matter of people not trying or not securing those things. But the Biz Builder was it Biz Builder?
biz
Biz
budding.
Budding.
Yeah, biz budding.
It looks like BizBudding went to the data center because that's what data centers do, and he bought a bunch of machines and
Yep.
started putting his clients there.
Yeah. And then you read some of the stuff that was leaked, and they're talking like somebody internally to the company to 365 data centers said it was a combination of an exploit and poor security practice. I mean, that's pretty obvious. They didn't have things properly segmented, that somebody was able to jump from a customer into their network. But you know, I don't know. You read what you saw. You found an Indiegogo site for one of their fund. It's a fundraising site for one of the websites that was hit, and they have their data. They've kind of scrapped it together, but their website's completely trashed. They worked on this for like 10 years and built a business around it, and they've
Yep.
been down for 2 months.
She's been down for 2 months. They put a
Yep.
$35,000 Indiegogo site up for her community to help her try and rebuild it. She can't build a community for their membership right now, but she must have a really good relationship or a really big community because she's already got
Yeah.
$17,000 worth of contributions to help her get back on her feet. This really goes down to, we've talked about it before, and we always tell people, back up your sites and know where it is, and don't necessarily depend on the carrier, because if you read the terms of service for some of these things, it's like you're responsible for your own data. And okay, I'm paying, even, they might have been paying for 365 data center to back up their data, but that all got encrypted.
Yeah, that was the scary part. On her site, it said that both her active and her backup got hit. So it kind of brings you full circle to what you said, shared responsibility. But they were trying to transfer risk to the data center to make sure it was backed up, and they didn't do their job. So now her site's down. But really, I think she was a BizBudding customer. So she was a BizBudding customer, and then BizBudding was a customer of 365 data centers. So now you're two companies deep, and 365 data centers, from the letters that were that were kind of released, like some of the data was just like, look, our hands are tied because it was a third part. It's one of our customers that was hit with ransomware, and they don't want to pay the ransom. So we can't get the decryption key, and there's nothing we can do to force them. So it kind of brings up a whole other point. We're in a shared environment a lot of the times, especially if you use different cloud hosting platforms. And if they do get hit, it might not be you as the cause, but you might just be sitting there and nothing you can do. And unfortunately, it sounds like there's thousands of websites like that were hosted there that there's nothing they can do. They're at the mercy of the customer of 365 data centers to come back to them and do that. And I think there was an email that was sent out, and Bob, you probably speak to this, where they sound like somebody paid the ransom and got the decryption key. This is
Yeah,
allegedly anyway.
about a month into the into this incident, I got a call because we have one client that actually has some machines hosted with these guys, and they could, oh yeah, we're calling to apologize and give you a status of what's going on. Meanwhile, I'm actually talking to the client that they're up and running. So their infrastructure, their internal infrastructure and monitoring systems were so messed up that they really had no idea who was up and who was down. We were lucky, we actually had implemented off vendor backups as a standard practice, so that we could tolerate something like this. It's a good safety net to get it out of that environment. I'm looking right now. It looks like BizBudding had about 180 client websites hosted on their platforms, and so that's not a good day for them either. We depend on our vendors to do what they say they're doing. Here's the thing: I don't know this for a fact, but every data center's is doing SOC reporting for what their practices are, but I guess the audits really didn't find stuff this time around.
Yeah. Well, and then they're not alone in this. I mean, they were hit, but there was Equinix was hit
Oh yeah,
like in 2020. Cyrus One was hit in 2019. These are all large data center providers. Like they're not alone, but it kind of highlights just like what Bob said. Having offsite backup outside of a data center is still important. Having that data someplace else is still important. And
I was on I,
unfortunately,
I was on a call, partner call this morning, and somebody was someone was talking to a new client, and they were like, it was actually a town government, and they're like, oh well, we're going to move to Office 365. We don't have to back it up; they take care of it.
yeah,
And we all know that's not the case. We can come up with multiple stories of data that's been lost in there. This is no different.
yeah,
You've got data there. You've got to figure out a way to back it up. It might be that you've got a huge data. If the data sets are getting that big, you're going to have to figure out how to segment and really back that data up and protect it. And that really is the moral of the story here. If other backups have been in place, a lot of the site we were just talking about, that's got the Indiegogo site, they would have been back up and could have potentially restored that data on another server, another site, and been done.
yeah. Well, let's talk about from a different perspective. Business continuity. If your business is 100% cloud, if it's based on a website, if it's based on something like that, you got to have a plan. And they didn't have a plan. Their plan was relying on somebody else, and unfortunately, that failed. And like we can rail on backup all day and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we still have to look through scenarios on each of our businesses and determine how do we keep running. I mean,
Yeah.
look, we're 14 days away or whatever, 2 weeks away from July 2nd, and it's 1 year from when Kaseya got hit. Look what
Yep.
that did to a lot of providers. They couldn't provide, the ones that got ransomware out of that was horrible, but the other ones that got shut down, a lot of them didn't have contingency plans on supporting their customers. From an IT perspective, that's terrible if you can't get in and actually support the customers. So people are calling in trying to get support, can't get support, things like that. That changed the way that I think you and I looked at things, just from a standpoint of like, well, you better have backup tools for some of your major tools because, there's no guarantee it's going to be there tomorrow.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. And the backups are critical. Getting into these systems remotely
yeah.
is a big thing we got to watch on the support side. Um,
So I think the message here is look at your business and say, what's identify the critical parts of your business and ask what happens if this goes away tomorrow. And if you
and
don't
that's
have an answer, you might want to find one. You might want to think about what.
Right, and then it goes back to actually running exercise in addition to just a
Yeah,
tabletop exercise. Let's have a disaster recovery drill. We put the guys in the room and say, okay, you don't have any of this stuff. How are you going to get us back?
yeah. I'll give you a live one right now. We're dealing with this today. We have a customer who has a machine that we technically don't support because it's so old and it's the vendor doesn't even support it, but it's running a very old, let's say Windows XP. Now we have a segment on the network and everything like that, so that it can't get out to the internet. But the hard drives failed, and it's not something that we support because they chose not to have it supported. Well, one, we can't support it anyway, but it's a machine, and they're looking at us for help, but they have no contingency plan for this. So they're down right now and can't manufacture some of the things they need to because they had no contingency plan for it. And we've brought this up multiple times over the last year about how dangerous of a situation they were in. Like if something like that failed, especially considering the hardware was 10, it was actually more than 10 years old. I think it's
More
like
than 10 years old.
15, 20 years old. Yeah. And now now we're sitting here dealing with this and trying to tell them, and they're going to their vendor, and the vendor's like, well, just buy another hard drive. Okay, well, try buying a hard drive for a 15, 20-year-old machine. You're going on eBay and you're waiting days for it to come here. So just illustrates that we really have to understand our businesses and have to understand like where the criticality of certain things are, and we have to have a contingency plan.
Yeah,
Contingency plan, contingency plan. Yeah.
we actually had a client that ran a center that had like 15 machines sitting there doing analysis and data capture. I was like, okay, well, we got to have a backup solution for this. I know I can't back these up. I can't replace this hardware, but we can go make some images to get these machines back, possibly in the future.
Yeah.
And this platform was so old, and it only worked on this one specific HP. We wound up buying a bunch of spares on eBay and going run. I
Yeah.
know actually we sent somebody out to Long Island from New Jersey to go meet somebody at a warehouse to go get these machines just to have them, because it wasn't just
Yeah.
the fact that it was an old machine. It had cards that we had to put in them, and these cards only worked so for data capture.
So they were proprietary cards.
Yep.
Oh, what happens when the card fails?
We had a few spares, but there were rooms there were actually rooms that they couldn't use because the monitor wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So that was a wake up call for the client to it was time to go. But yeah, so big thing here. A lot of these things like you just did, like you identified a machine that was a potential bottleneck at this client. You've informed them, and I assume you did that as part of a risk assessment.
It wasn't formal risk assessment. It was just we were looking at it and we were like, "What are you doing for these?" Because they weren't covered, and they were just like, "We thought you were handling it." And I'm like, "These aren't supported. These are manufacturing machines that you need to have vendor support for." Oh, and then we tried to follow up multiple times, and they just kind of blew us off. And now we're sitting here in a little different situation. It, you know, from a manufacturing perspective, we see this a lot, and I don't want to rail on this, but like, don't have 20-year-old equipment. And if you do, make sure you have a contingency for it. Make sure you have a plan like when it fails, because again, if this is critical to your business, it's critical to your business, and
Yep.
I don't know what else to tell you. So,
And and that goes, that is part of both our agreements that clients need to have current hardware and current software on those machines. So, we can't work miracles. We will try and keep you going, but at the end, it really is your responsibility to make sure that your business has got all the appropriate things. If
yeah,
you need to, we I'm going to wrap this call up wrap this call up, and if there's something that we can talk to you advise you on, or cyber questions you have, please enter them below. Chris and I are eager to give everyone what they want to hear and see what's going on. Unfortunately, it's pretty easy for us to go find topics in the news for these because for this week, because it's just coming out and biting us. So if it's something you want to hear, or you want to assess your risk, check out the link below, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Chris.
yeah, thanks, dude.